Okay, everyone. Hi, this is Jeremy Hancher. We're going to get started. I want to thank you for joining us for the our third webinar in this Sustaining Your Business series. We think we have a good webinar in store for you, and once again, we're thankful that you're here with us. I'd like to thank Ann Gonzalez for helping putting together a lot of the information and help put this webinar together. And we'd especially like to thank Caroline Duell for guest speaking. Spending time with us and sharing her good story about All Good and the great things that they're doing.
Thank you, Jeremy.
You're welcome. So a little bit about the webinar. We are recording this, so we will post it a little later to our website. We'll share a link with all of you so you can view back or share it with your clients or customers or whatever else. We have you on muted, at least the attendees, Caroline and myself. We're able to speak and participate, answer any questions that you have. So please use the chat chat box. Ask any questions in there. We'll get to them as we see them, or wait till the end of our presentations and answer your questions. We're gonna shoot for about a 45-minute presentation. I'll speak for about 15-20 minutes, and then Caroline will go. We can then take a little bit more interactive Q&A from there, and then we'll share some resources. And then the download link for the presentation is available. It should be in the bottom right-hand box. There's a little home and personal care PDF file that you could download at your will. And again, we will probably follow up via email with another copy of that. You can join the conversation if you like or want to tweet or share this information with your Facebook or Twitter fans. By all means, please do so. You can use the hashtag Sustaining Your Business or Ask EMAP or come up with your own. I know All Good has a Twitter feed. I know hopefully Caroline can share that with you as well. So tag each other and join the conversation.
Yeah, ours is at All Good Brand. Thank you.
Okay. At All Good Brand. There you go. Thank you. So a little bit about myself and Caroline. I've been with the EMAP program here at the Pennsylvania Small Business Development Centers for about 12 years now. I've been with the EMAP program, so we help small businesses with all sorts of environmental needs. A lot of times we help with environmental compliance assistance, sustainability, pollution prevention, energy efficiency, you name it. We are a statewide service. We work with small businesses all across Pennsylvania. As part of like a specialized program within the SBDC. Now, Caroline, I'm going to help read her bio, which is very interesting. She's been making herbal medicines for herself, her friends, and her family since 1995. In 1998, she created All Good Goop, which is produced from 5 herbs in her garden. After giving the salve to her massage clients and rock climbing students, she quickly realized how important the remedy was to share with the world. Then in 2006, she established her business. They're located in Morro Bay. The company, branded as All Good, it offers organic and botanical-based body care products, including All Good Goop, lotions, lip balms, sunscreens, and more. They are dedicated to triple bottom line practice, have been a B Corporation since 2009, and 1% for the Planet member since 2006. Caroline lives with her husband, Ryan Rich, All Good's VP of Sales and Marketing, and their 2 daughters on the family's organic farm. So thank you, Caroline, once again for being here with us. We really appreciate it.
That's my pleasure. Thank you.
So a little bit about the presentation overview. We're going to talk about personal home care, a little bit about Pennsylvania-based businesses, then I'll touch on some environmental issues, some trends, things that are going on. At least from our perspective, from what we're seeing, and then we'll turn things over to Caroline and All Good, and she'll talk about sustainability initiatives, 1% for the Planet, B Corp, whatever else she has on her plate. Again, we'll do some Q&A. We've got some resources at the end. If we have time, we can share those. Otherwise, a lot of them are hyperlinks. You can visit them at a later time. So in terms of Pennsylvania, in terms of home and personal care companies, over the course of a 1 calendar year, I think this is over 2015 and 2016, this is just 1 year of how many clients were of the Pennsylvania Small Business Development Centers. And we base this information mostly by NAICS code, which is the North American Industrial classification systems. So we have a database that we track a lot of our clients and stuff. We are a nonprofit, but we just track time spending that we assist small businesses to share with our reporters, our funders, to say, hey, we're assisting this kind of small businesses. So this is kind of a snapshot of the type of businesses that most likely or probably do use home and personal care products. As you can see, salons is a very big number that work with the SBDCs. There's a lot of personal care services, cosmetics, perfume stores, nail salons, et cetera, et cetera. So one of the purpose of this webinar is, there's a lot going on in terms of sustainability and from an environmental standpoint. Being located at a business school, we see a lot of business articles about environmental sustainability. And I think the beginning of the year, maybe last year, maybe it was in the works a little longer. I know the Target, they put together a sustainability initiative, one of the big box stores. And I saw this quote, and it kind of sums up a good kind of idea for this webinar. It's you can read it yourself, but it's 62% of the general population believe that harmful chemicals in personal care products can impact their health, and 66% of U.S. consumers want better for you products from a social and environmental standpoint. I feel like there's a big awareness now that's going on in this industry, and there's a lot of notice for it. I think a lot of big companies are taking notice, and obviously as a small business, we're a lot of the ground setters really. But in terms of the environmental issues and the trends, as I just mentioned, larger companies are seeking out value-based consumers. A lot of them are like millennial-based consumers that are quick on social media or looking at stuff. They want to buy a product that's good for the environment. They're looking for that, helping out the smaller local companies. They want to make sure that the products they're buying, the companies are behind them and they're doing good. The supply chain is another big issue. Again, with the Target or the Walmart and some of the other larger companies, they're looking at having products in their stores that are environmentally friendly and are doing proper things, or they have the right metrics in place. And the transparency it's obviously an issue, as I just mentioned with the social media. There's no more greenwashing. If a company says, hey, our product is environmentally beneficial, it can quickly be, I think, found out whether it is or not. And along with a lot of the other, I think, environmental trends, natural ingredients is a big thing. Sustainable packaging is another thing, and obviously minimizing waste. So in terms of the ingredients, 80% of ingredients in personal care products, really, and Caroline, you could probably tell us if we're wrong or if this is about right, is, these products haven't really been tested for safety by the FDA. I think there's more and more, research being done, and even in terms of EPA, how safe are a lot of these products that are being put in there?
Yeah, the number is in the thousands.
Thousands, yeah. I think I have another statistic in another slide coming up. It was like the number of various. I don't want to jump ahead of myself, but the number of ingredients, as you mentioned, like in the thousands, it's they're suspected carcinogens or something. So it's very interesting. Mm-hmm. And of course, you can buy all these products all over the place. With Amazon, you can probably buy a product that's been made overseas, or whether it be in Japan or China or Canada. Yeah, and the FDA takes mostly a reactionary, not a precautionary approach when it comes to it. Like a lot of times, they won't really look at things until there is a suspected issue, or something is going wrong. And again, the same kind of thing goes with home care products. What kind of chemicals are you cleaning your house or your carpets or your other linens with as well. But with the lax regulation, I think with a lot of regulations being rolled back these days, a lot of the business, particularly the small businesses, really have the opportunity to step up their game. And then I think we all want ingredients that are not only good for you and your customers or your clients, but also good for the environment and the earth as well. So one little case study, or one little thing was I know it was in the news quite a bit, but was like the microbeads with a lot of the face washes and that type of stuff. The microbeads were like a plastic, I guess, that helped scrub a lot of the defoliants or exfoliants on your face and stuff. And there was a lot of research being done that a lot of these microbeads were finding themselves in waterways and having a detrimental effect on, I don't know, fish and wildlife and that kind of stuff. So I think it was in 2015, there was an amendment that was passed basically due to these microbeads that banned a lot of the manufacturing packaging of these microbeads. And I think the actual manufacturing of the microbeads is supposed to cease this July 1st in 2017. And then as well, the introduction of or the delivery in interstate commerce is supposed to cease on July 1st, 2018. So the ingredients, there's also the waste issues, in actually making a lot of these products, the energy and the water in the making of these operations is one thing that can be looked at in terms of, minimization or efficiency. The wasted products with the packaging as well during manufacturing. The product packaging itself usually makes up about 45% of the trash that goes in the landfill. And a lot of this is because it's a little difficult to, to almost segregate or to take apart in the waste streams. You get a little hand pump or something. It not only has the plastic container, but it's got a little metal string or metal spring. There might be some little bit of ingredients still kind of in the neck or something that you can't quite rinse and get out of there. And maybe the recycling people don't want to take it away. So, the packaging is another big area of concern or area to look at. But there's also another trend as well, is a lot of companies are realizing this, and they're trying to incentivizing their consumers to recycle these or making it easier to recycle. So one thing on packaging, this was at least I just saw this the other week. This was a checklist actually prepared. It's actually a really handy guide. It's from the Food and Drink Federation and the Industrial Council for Research on Packaging in the Environment. And I really urge you, if you hadn't looked at it, you can download the hyperlink a little later, take a look at it. But it's a good checklist. It's designed to help companies choose and optimize their packaging, so it contributes, to a net improvement in the use of their resources, make supply chain more resource efficient, help them achieve a higher level of safety and hygiene, meet consumers' needs and preferences, and really address environmental issues. And then there is the EPA Safer Choice as well. I mentioned, with a lot of the ingredients, the hazardous ingredients. EPA, they have a program in place. Hopefully it still will be in place in the coming months or years, but it's supposed to help consumers and commercial buyers identify products that have safer chemical ingredients. Their requirements are for performance, packaging, pH, and VOCs. They have a number of lists on their website that you can go and look, and you can kind of organize it by whatever kind of subject that you want to, and find some good alternatives really. But you want to look for the Safer Choice label as well. I think that's on a lot of product packaging as well. And back to the environmental issues and trends in the businesses. The salons and schools or beauty schools have a lot of issues as well. Or they're using a lot of these products. They're using these chemicals and dyes and bleaches and solvents. Some of these solvents may have VOCs, which contributes to air pollution or something else. You can think of like a nail polish with acetone, breathing in. It's not only for the customers, but for the workers, the employees as well. Then there becomes the issue of, water use, wastewater disposal. There's energy use. You think these things are on with a lot of lights and a lot of other, energies going on as well. So that's an opportunity to, to minimize waste. And solid waste as well, paper towels, product containers, other type of packaging. There's also the social sustainability standpoint. The employees and students, they might suffer from constant contact, again, with the acetone or other kind of solvents. So another thing to think about. So one of the things that they can do is obviously switch to less toxic products, check MSDS safety data sheets to see if there is greenwashing that's taking place. Actually look at the data sheets. You can figure out what ingredients are actually in these chemicals or products that they're using. Which also should or could help with proper disposal of these chemicals. And just thinking, is there a better method to dispose of these items, or recycle it, or refill them, or use them over and over again. And then we get to the producers and the retailers. The consumers. They want to use cleaner ingredients or more natural ingredients. On average, a consumer might use 9 products each day, which might be made up of 126 unique ingredients. And then there's another statistic, this is all from the Environmental Working Group, is that 25% of women apply maybe 15 or more products each day. I mean, as a male, I probably use just about that many already, and I'm halfway done my day. And then, of course, there's children, sunscreen, diaper cream, shampoo, et cetera, et cetera. So think of all the products out there. Think of what you use and think, hey, what am I putting on myself, on my body? And is that good? And as a consumer, do we really want to put nasty stuff on ourselves anyway? So there's also the consumer standpoint. There's the environmental standpoint, using cleaner, more natural ingredients. As we talked about, I think when we were just getting started in the 1000s. So this was the statistic I think I was going to reach at, was that personal care products are manufactured with like 10,500 unique chemical ingredients. And I don't think there's enough research out there, but obviously some or more, or a lot of them are known or suspected carcinogens. These products as well can get into, again, maybe the waterways, the waste stream, create hormone disruptions with wildlife or fish or other kind of stuff. So it's kind of this big cycle. I touched on the millennials and the social media aspect a little bit, and of course the big business as well. It is big business for millennials. Millennials are, I forget what the statistic is, but they're a large amount of consumers these days, and they are gravitating more towards natural and value in their products. There was a study by Nielsen that showed that like 3 out of 4 millennials will choose a more sustainable offering if they can. And again, I mentioned with the social media, I just took this example from online, but there was apparently some sort of hair product that everybody started tweeting and posting on social media, on Facebook, that, hey, this product something's going on, my hair's falling out. And obviously there's a couple of pictures that aren't probably good for the business. So with heightened transparency, big businesses, they know this, they're looking out and they're thinking, wow, we really need to reevaluate what we're doing. Some of the drivers as well for consumers that are wanting to purchase products. This is, again, some statistics I will let you look at a later time. But I mean, a lot of the millennials are the younger crowds. This is a global study, basically showed that, yeah, they're looking out for products that are made by a company that I trust. It's got health and wellness benefits. It's got natural ingredients, et cetera, et cetera. And there's, on average, about a 10 to 13% difference in the products that they purchase. So back to the supply chain and big businesses a little bit. Again, I mentioned it's a big deal. You're probably hearing the same things over and over, but you can look at like a Walmart or a Target or even a Unilever. They've all got like these environmental initiatives put in place. Walmart, they have a global responsibility. And if you would go to look at that, these are all hyperlinks, so you could check them out a little later at your desire. But their global responsibility's got a subset for sustainability. And then there, they focus on energy waste products, responsible sourcing. I mentioned Target, I think from the start, with the quote is that they've got like a new chemical strategy in place. They're focusing on transparency, on chemical management across their supply chain within their own operations. They've got an innovation, thing in place where they're looking for safer alternatives, new approaches, et cetera, and chemicals development. These are big businesses that, hey, we know there's big business in the environment and sustainability. And then finally, with Unilever, they made the news quite a bit, not necessarily from themselves, but Unilever, if you may or may not know, they bought Ben & Jerry's, which is a B corporation. They also bought, I think it's 7th Generation, which is all into personal care products. I know they do a lot of laundry detergent. But Unilever is really big on reducing environmental impact and enhancing livelihoods. But Kraft Heinz apparently attempted to purchase Unilever for billions and billions of dollars, and they saw value in it. The merger, the buyout did not take place, but then shortly after, Kraft Heinz said, well, wait a second, we didn't get Unilever, but we're trying to, we still realize that sustainability is a big issue. So they went ahead and started putting their own kind of plan in place to figure it out. So I think a lot of these companies really realize that, yeah, there's a big issue in sustainability and environmental. It does impact our bottom line. And as a small business, I mean, we are the trendsetters, and that's why we're, again, happy and glad to have Caroline with us to share her story and tell us about the good things that All Good is doing. So Caroline, if you were still on this, which I think you are,
Yes.
we'll hand it over to you.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks, Jeremy. That was excellent. I really appreciate the depth of concepts that you address there, and it's particularly important if this audience is of a group of people who are wanting to start their own business. I think that you really well rounded out so many of the issues, and one of the things that I think is really exciting is that we can dig into them deeper, a lot deeper than when I started my business. The awareness levels are growing, and the level of education and just kind of the information out there has really been expanded a lot. So thank you for that very much. Um, so let's see, from our perspective, as you mentioned in my bio, there was a big gap there from when I first made All Good Goop, the product, in 1998, and when I established a business in 2006. And that gap was really a lot of years spent resisting the idea of starting a business. And I thought, there's no way I can scale this up and stay true to my values. You know, I had a background in herbal medicine and emergency medicine, and was connected to the concept of healing people and healing the earth, and restoring the connection between wellness and wilderness. And there didn't seem like any possible way for me to do that by starting a business. So I literally went into it kicking and screaming. My first customer was in 2006 up in Northern California, where I had made the product All Good Goop from herbs that we grew on a garden there. And it's a health food store in Fairfax, California, called The Good Earth. And I said, can you just hold on to these products while some people are going to come by and get them? And the guy took me by my shoulders and said, hey, you're starting a business and we are a store. And so you sell me the products and I sell them to them, and that's how it works. And I tell that little bit of a story because I think a lot of people come into business with an idea and a plan and a financial diagram and execute their plan. And for me, it was absolutely about this inherent need to make a connection for people between the herbal and botanical ingredients that the earth supports and how those relate to them and their body and their skin. So I didn't think a business would be the way to do that. Nonetheless, 2006, we established our business, and one of the most important things to me in getting going was to set up a level of integrity and some criteria for us to be able to follow, so that I felt like I could stay true to our values. And that's what's written on this slide right here. Is green. There are 9 green business principles that these were literally just me digging into what I thought was the most important priority for growing and scaling, starting with looking toward mentors and other businesses that were already established and who's out there doing what they're doing and doing it well. So you've really already addressed a lot of these, Jeremy. So I don't need to dig in too much on them, but what I would like to do is just share a little bit about how it relates to us and our business and the specifics. And feel free to jump in at any point and add color or ask questions if you'd like, Jeremy.
Yeah, oh, sorry,
Sure.
Caroline. Just a quick question. This diagram that you put together, you mentioned that you started with like mentors or anything, but have you found as your business has moved on, is it more of like a fluid thing? Like, do you focus sometimes on supply chain or market-driven restoration? Well, I mean, do you find that maybe one of these little circles or these little principles maybe takes more center stage at certain points?
At certain points, absolutely, but I think for the most part, they work cohesively and they all need to be present. I think that lacking any of these is where you start to get greenwashing, or where you start to have a little bit of it starts to be of a concern, because that's kind of why I felt like it was important to have this many aspects to follow, and they can all be sort of concisely distilled into a few different principles, which we'll get to at the end. But for the most part, every single one of these needs to be present, at least in my humble opinion, or you start to lose out on aspects of true sustainability. So jumping in, Here's a photograph of our products. We have a whole line. You can check them out at allgoodproducts.com. And it really started out with the healing salve, All Good Goop, the little jar with the black lid on top of the coconut oil, and then moved right along through lip balms, a healing spray, herbal freeze, which is for sore muscles and whatnot, and joints and aches, and then a line of sunscreens, and then our moisturizing line. Now we also do deodorants and hand sanitizer, and basically kind of an overall rounded body care line. So starting with transparency, I think you nailed it. That not only are people going to find out anyway, but taking a position of transparency is super important. From the standpoint of gaining trust with their customers and also just being real about making improvements along the way. So I'm going to just mention throughout a couple of these principles some of the companies that we look to for inspiration on how they kind of nail one or two or each of these aspects the most. And for this one, it's Patagonia. And I think Patagonia does a really good job of sharing what's actually happening within their company and within their products, not omitting things and not just marketing without substance. And it really empowers their customers to make the choice that they want to, whether or not something is completely 100% sustainable. It gives their customers the opportunity to know and to make the choice. So on the Patagonia website, you can check out the Footprint Chronicles, and it actually shows you a diagram of where each of the raw materials for that product was made, and then how far the product has to travel before it comes to your house. It's pretty cool. Supply chain commitment. This is also gaining a lot of momentum. I think it has a really long way to go, but it's really pretty important, especially from a consumer packaged good perspective. So for us, it's what is the impact of this product, and whether that's upstream, any kind of pollutants or anything that's going into the manufacturing of it, and then the downstream as well. So from the supply chain perspective, we take a very active and very lengthy look at where any of our ingredients come from, and make sure that we feel really comfortable with that source, that we understand where it is, and that the impact of that ingredient is going to have beneficial impacts, obviously, feel really good and work, and also be, from an environmental perspective, not be a pollutant down the line. And on the packaging perspective, I'll tell you right back to the transparency, packaging is by far the most difficult challenge that we have in our business in terms of creating sustainability. You mentioned the FDA and some of the regulations on chemicals. Well, the FDA also has regulatory statutes in place on how certain products are allowed to be packaged if they're an OTC product. So we deal with that in terms of being required to have certain types of packaging for our sunscreens in particular. And also there's consumer usability. Like, we can't put everything in glass. It's just not going to be functional for our outdoor users. And then if you look at metal, it's got its own host of issues, and it's also extremely expensive. So we do rely on plastics. We prioritize recycled plastics absolutely as much as possible, and we 100% require that all of our packaging is recyclable. But we can't control the downstream impacts in terms of how what somebody's gonna do when they're done with our product. So if they don't choose to recycle it, it's up to us to circle back around and educate our customers about what they can do with it. And then this is where we're constantly innovating as well. We're looking at solutions for packaging and improving our packaging every single day, looking at good options for what we can do. And like I said, we also do have majority of our plastics are post-consumer recycled to begin with. So we at least start with that. But I like to take it to the mat and keep really charging on it. And this is one place where I'm always looking for really some innovation and work. So I'm excited also for some potential changes on that level. Market-driven restoration is a concept that I was taught by a company called Guayaquil. They're a fellow B Corporation. They make a mate drink, and every single bottle of Guayaquil mate that you purchase is going to restore organic mate agriculture and prevent deforestation in Paraguay and Brazil. And I think that's just amazing. Our take on it, when I started this business in 2006, we had already purchased a farm here on the Central Coast, and it was a junkyard when we bought it. We literally removed hundreds of tons of metal, heavy metal, and motorcycles and hot tubs and refrigerators, and I mean, you name it, we got rid of it from our property. 40 cars we removed. And then we restored the land and built the topsoil, and now we have a working organic farm and permaculture education center. And it's integrated into our business in that we grow all of the calendula that goes into every one of our every product that we use calendula in, from our farm. So we're actually producing one of the main raw materials from our farm. So it's sort of seed to shelf all the way through. And it gives us the opportunity to give back to the land and to grow in the way that we think is the most important in terms of regenerative agriculture and growing topsoil and promoting beneficial insects, and obviously leaving out all the nasty chemicals and whatnot. We also use the farm as a place where we grow food for our employees. So we have a CSA box as a kind of just a benefit that people get for working here. And then we throw events up there and use it as an education center as well. So that's our bit of give back and our connection to the farm. You can see the logo that we established, that our products have calendula from our farm on there. Moving along.
Real quick, Caroline.
Sure.
I had a couple of things. That description sounded awesome and it was very impressive, but that junkyard sounded like one of my clients, but that's another topic for another discussion.
Okay.
But I wanted to go back. I just want to ask a quick question. Sorry, I don't want to like get you off your game or anything.
Not at all. I'm good.
With the transparency and like social media and stuff, I'm just curious, as a small business, have you encountered any like social media issues with your packaging or your products or anything? And like, how have you gone about that? Or
Yeah, I mean, it happens all the time, every day, and I think one of the sort of the guidelines that people can use is that I like to think about it is transparency doesn't come from the front of the packaging. Transparency comes from the back of the packaging. And so, when things will blow up with other companies, people will call us and ask us about it. For example, zinc oxide is the single active ingredient that we use in our sunscreens, and zinc oxide is not just zinc oxide. Zinc oxide comes in many forms and many factors, and one of the ways that zinc is made is that they pound down the particles of zinc to be so small that they call it nanoparticle, which is one of the concerns that it can cross the blood-brain barrier in the body and have a harmful effect on the body. It also nanoparticle zinc oxide has an issue with coral reefs and with aquatic systems in terms of being actually ingested by the aquatic entities. So people, we put zinc oxide on our products, and so then we get calls every day, is it non-nano? Can you prove that it's non-nano? And that's where we are able to provide the testing and show that to people, that we do indeed commit to a non-nano particle zinc oxide, and we even give the manufacturer who we work with and where our zinc comes from, and we're totally cool with that. Coconut oil is another one. We get our coconut oil from an amazing consortium of organic farmers in the Philippines, and there have been a lot of different issues around palm oil and coconut oil, palm oil in particular. But that's another one where I see it as we have the opportunity to connect with our customers and share with them about what we do. So yeah, I mean, all the time we have that opportunity to share transparency on our front, and it's funny because it doesn't come naturally. I mean, we're just basically, head to the ground, I'm sharing this assuming that there are business people here in the audience, not just from a consumer perspective, but from a business perspective. Your nose to the grindstone. You're just working all day long trying to make sure everything is getting out there to people and that we have the highest quality product. And sometimes we forget to share, like, oh yeah, right, I forgot to tell you we grow the calendula, or we forgot to tell you that we have this great connection with Mountain Rose Herbs in Oregon, and they supply us a lot of our raw materials, or things like that. And people want to know. And so it's been such a great learning experience for me to be able to pause, step back, and remember to share specifics about our products with people.
Thank you.
Sure. So rolling into community support and employee empowerment, you definitely address these a little bit. Community support, we in that bottom left picture, we're out kayaking in our local estuary there, and we've done a number of different volunteer projects, and whether it's helping disabled vets on surfboards or mentally challenged adults get on stand-up paddleboards, or things like that. We're involved in the community in a number of ways. One of the most basic ways that we're involved in the community is that one of our products, the All Good Goop, that was our original product, is actually made in our local community center kitchen. We share the kitchen with the Meals on Wheels for elders, so we get people coming in all the time smelling the lavender and appreciating what we're doing. It's a solar-powered facility, and we have a group of in between 4 and 5, 6 local women that make our healing salve every week, and then label it by hand. It's all hand poured, hand labeled. Community involvement is super important from a sustainable perspective. We also work with our local SBDC on a number of things, so we could talk all day about that. Employee empowerment and can't be left behind. Absolutely, employees I think are where change can happen in any organization. So really helping employees understand the mission and the values of the business to be able to have a clear path for involvement and a clear path for helping be a part of the decision making of the direction of the company is super important. My inspiration on this is Cliff Bar. I think they do a great job. They have a crazy amount of incentives, and I wish that I could do that for my people. They have a gym, they have trainers, yoga classes, they have incentives to bike to work and share rides and that kind of stuff, and they just do a really good job of engaging their core people to follow the ethos of their own company. We have a wellness day that we do quarterly, and I mentioned the box from the fruit from the farm, and we have a really good time. So we do the best we can at that, and that actually wraps back around to transparency. From an environmental perspective, I actually engaged in a 360 review, which was a third-party local community business consultant group that came in and did a survey of all of our employees to address whether people were being whether there was like a clarity and an honesty between what we thought people wanted and what they were getting. And it was really enlightening to see, without me asking somebody, it was coming from more of a neutral survey. We got some really honest answers and made some really big changes this year on some of our employee benefits and specifics of things that were important to them. So I think that I would highly encourage that for every small business owner, is to not assume that you know what your employees want, but take a step back and actually get someone else to help you verify that, because you can learn a lot. Fun is in there, and fun is, if you say one's the most important, I think this is the one. This is the most important. Fun always has to be woven into everything that is done, and if it's not, then it's kind of a good question to ask why you're doing what you're doing, because it shouldn't be anything but fun. And of course, it's hard sometimes growing a business and being an employee or a business owner, but I think fun and being conscious of the earth and our impacts on the earth are completely intertwined. The bottom pictures here on the right and then the far left are our athletes. We have a team of athlete activists. To be an athlete on our team, to be sponsored by All Good, one must be an environmental activist as well. And so on the left, you have Brent Allen, who cleans up the Monterey Bay. He's literally just like sweeps the bay, Monterey Bay of plastics and whatnot. On the right, you have Chanel Sladix, and she is a huge spokesperson for climate change action and winter sports awareness around snow and climate change. And she also started her own company called Simply Straws that is produces glass straws to help get rid of all the plastic straws out there. So we love to support them. And this final slide is probably where I can spend. How much time do I have, Jeremy?
As long as you want, really. I mean, we've got a good 20. No, we've got a good 20 minutes, so you can take another 5 to 10 minutes, whatever.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just checking in, because this is where I think the rubber meets the road on this slide, and so we can dig into this a little bit. The last 3 points are activism, accountability, and measurability. And activism, you mentioned it in your slides that now is where small businesses really have the opportunity to step up and take a leadership role. There's no way, I mean, you can talk about this administration, whatever, but in general, we're not going to see necessarily an incentive for responsibility in business coming from government or from any sort of higher up entities. So it really is an opportunity for us to take a stand. And every single company I've mentioned is great at activism. One that I like to highlight is Dr. Bronner's. They've been working hard to pass legislation to legalize the growing of hemp in the U.S. so that they can have a domestic source for their supply chain. Just one example, but we take activism very seriously, and we're not afraid to step out and take a stand on things that are important to us. And this year, 2017, we've launched a reef-friendly campaign. So we developed a set of criteria that are all aspects of basically the most important things that keep the coral reefs from being bleached and from being killed by personal care products. I was lucky enough to attend the International Coral Reef Symposium in Honolulu last June, where I was able to hear the data from 4 years of research from Dr. Craig Downs and his associates on the impacts of personal care products on coral reefs. I always knew it was kind of a problem, but after actually hearing the data, I was completely inspired to get the word out. And it's not about our brand, it's about people understanding what is happening on the reefs and how they can easily just take a position to prevent their bleaching. And so specifically from the data, we developed this little infographic that if people avoid products with parabens, phthalates, triclosan, and microbeads, you mentioned microbeads have actually very clearly been determined to be ingested and then regurgitated by the reefs and then cause bleaching and kill the reefs. So basically no toxic preservatives or additives. No chemical sunscreens. There are 8 chemical sunscreens that we list here that are actually all FDA approved sunscreens, so that's kind of a problem from the FDA perspective, but they're endocrine disruptors on the reef and they also deform the DNA of the reef. But newsflash, the coral reefs are an animal, just like we are an animal, so the impacts that they have on the reef are actually exactly the impacts that they have on our human systems as well. And we tiptoe around that because we don't want to, it really freaks people out if you tell them, it's like, I don't know, it's a delicate dance to explain to people that what they're using is actually causing them harm when they're kind of very committed to whatever they're using. But I've decided not to hold back anymore and just let people know that these things are super dangerous, and I can't wait to look back on chemical sunscreens the way that we do microbeads from 2015, DDT from the 70s, or frankly smoking cigarettes. I think they're going to be right in that category. So this is where our activism comes in. We promote for people to avoid oxybenzone, octinoxate, octocrylene, PABA, enzacamine, octisalate, homosalate, and avobenzone. Those are a lot of big words, but those are the big words that are on the back of everybody's sunscreen unless they're using zinc sunscreen. So yes to zinc oxide and yes to third-party testing, making sure that what's going on is actually being verified and that the particles of the zinc are verified for being non-nano, because that's the important part about zinc oxide, is that it's not nano. So we're supporting legislation in Hawaii to ban one of these chemical sunscreens, and we're taking this literature to the islands and also taking it around the mainland to make sure that people understand that they have power to take a stand on this as well. So that's just one of our examples of activism. And then accountability and measurability are intertwined, but they're also very uniquely different. Accountability I define as that someone's verifying that we're doing what we say we do, and measurability is more about what are we really doing. Because if we think that we're there's one thing to greenwash and completely not be transparent about things, but there's another thing to think that what you're doing is the right direction, but without really measuring its impact, there's no way to really know. So that's where B Corporation comes in to the conversation. And as you mentioned, Jeremy, we've been a certified B Corporation since 2009. And what that means is they're a nonprofit that started as really wanting to figure out a way to have an accountable and measurable way for businesses to be a force for good. And so they developed an assessment, and their assessment has the categories of governance, workers, community, and environment. And it's a very rigorous assessment to address all the aspects of how a business is run, from the recycling in your office to, how much you share with your employees on your finances, to what kind of impact you have on your community, to your supply chain. So kind of like all around much of the topics that we've discussed here. And then another role that the B Corporation nonprofit B Lab started, was to go domestically around the U.S. and pass legislation in states to create an actual corporate entity for businesses being a force for good. And so they passed the benefit corporation legislation, and we are actually a California benefit corporation as well. So we file taxes as a C corporation, but within the DNA of the company, it's written that no matter who the shareholders or no matter what happens to the company, we are dedicated to an environmental and socially responsible set of practices. We're a triple bottom line business, and the legislation essentially is put in place to help protect companies from their own shareholders. So the shareholder can't say, you can't build that methane digesting plant because it's not going to contribute to profits this year. And the company can say, actually, it contributes to our triple bottom line principles, so we are going to do it. That's just a sort of formality of it, but it's the spirit of it is to give businesses a platform to very coherently have a pathway for environmental and social responsibility, and to really build it into the skeleton of the business so that it's a part of it in perpetuity. And then I put our strip of sort of certifications on the left here. You could have logos all day long, but some of them are the ones to prioritize. And along with B Corporation, the other pillar of strength in my mind for us is 1% for the planet. So that's our accountability for giving a measured amount, so our measurability of 1% of our revenues to nonprofits. And it's revenues, not profits. And I think that's the most important thing in distinguishing about 1% for the planet. It's a way of giving back, and it's a way of being held accountable for giving back that amount. So we're hitting $100,000 in giving this year. And we've worked with organizations anywhere from Rainforest Action Network on their campaign to stop using Indonesian hardwoods in Disney's children's books for paper, to our local wildlife group helping keep the local wildlife safe here in San Luis Obispo County, from anywhere from our local nature school, which is teaching children about nature connection and nature awareness, to protect our winters, growing awareness around climate change. So it's really an amazing organization. I highly recommend both B Corp and 1% for the Planet for anybody starting a business and wanting to follow the path of green business. The little bunny under the B Corp is our commitment to not testing on animals. So it's again measured and very clear, and we would never do that, but it's really important to verify it. And then the last two are organic certifications. So the very bottom one is Oregon Tilth organic certifiers, and those guys we're an Oregon Tilth certified company, so they're the ones that come in and verify all of our organic claims. And then USDA is the stamp that goes on our products that are USDA certified organic. Yeah, I think in general, I've talked about how every single one of these is the most important, but this slide really does a job of bringing many of them into those specific entities. Like, for a B Corp, transparency, community support, employee empowerment, supply chain, all of those are measured through the B Corp assessment. And so it's a great one-stop shop for somebody looking to have their own level of kind of self-assessment on how, or it's their assessment, but how am I doing on this, and how can I improve? We're doing an initiative this year to improve our B Corp score. So one of our company goals is to be best for the world in 2017, and that means be in the top 10% scoring of B Corps. And we've addressed very specifically in the assessment some of the things that we want to look into and improve so that we can continue to improve based on the B Corp assessment, because it really does align with our values and our direction and what we want for our business. And we know that inherently it's what's good for the world. So yeah, I think that is kind of a good wrap. You can find us at allgoodproducts.com. But I would love to hear any questions that came up for you, Jeremy, or for anybody else.
Yeah, I don't see any questions in the chat, so if anybody has any questions, please type them in there while we have Caroline on. Otherwise, I'm going to ask a few follow-up questions myself. But that was great. Caroline, real quick, with regard to about the certifications, this came up on our food industry webinar. It was a question about certifications, and I mean, did you find that getting all those certifications was worth it? And then, why did you? I think you explained why you decided to get the ones that you did. But you mentioned that, there could be like a laundry list of them, but were you selective as to which ones you preferred to go to? And I mean, I know there's a certification process, so I guess I'm wondering, was it all worth it, really?
Yeah, I mean, we started as 1% for the Planet in 2006. So the first check I had to cut was not very big, and that helps a lot if you're starting a business, to go ahead and do it at an early phase, and then you basically wrap that into your budget from the start. I think to be a $20 million company would be a harder place to start if you hadn't already allocated those funds. But I don't know of any other organization that holds that level of integrity or that level of commitment to 1% of revenues. So that was why for 1% for the Planet. And then B Corp, I actually used to do my own sort of self-assessment on supply chain impact, upstream, downstream pollution, and I was trying to develop kind of a ones and zeros computer algorithm for measuring it, and it was so ridiculously complicated, and it didn't allow me to actually grow my business. So when B Corp came along, I was stoked, because it was just a perfect partner for us to be able to not only communicate what we were doing, but to be able to verify the things that were important to me were also the things that they were measuring. So I personally think that from that perspective, in terms of certification for businesses, that B Corp holds the highest level of integrity and commitment and accountability. And it's really not that big of a deal. One of the things that we've done is we request that any of our suppliers actually take the B Corp assessment as well. So it gives us a tool to measure our supply chain and their levels of environmental commitment as well. And it goes on and on how useful it is. And the other benefit to it is that you become a part of a community. We're instantly, we're like totally a community with Cabot. We're totally a community with Patagonia and with other brands that are B Corps as well. And so it creates this. It's created a movement and created kind of like oh yeah, right, cool. You guys know what's going on just by seeing that stamp. That they've taken the time and the effort and the energy, and where their priorities are.
That's good that you mentioned B Corp, because it's sort of also a teaser. But we have another webinar scheduled for April, and we actually have B Corp as like a guest speaker as well. So that's
cool. B Lab.
Cool. B Lab. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's excellent. Yeah, thanks for that overview.
Fantastic. Yeah. Great.
Oh yeah. I had a couple other questions. Back in the beginning, you mentioned how you were resisting starting your own business. And then I think you mentioned a little bit about like the SBDCs and stuff. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you kind of helped with that. And then I know you fast forward a little bit and you talked about the 360 review. Mm-hmm. And I was just curious a little bit more about that, like how you found that, and how did you find some like local economic development organizations to help you with your business, and how helpful were they, or any other like words of warning for anybody, or not words of warning, but words of advice?
Sure. Yeah, well, originally I had found SCORE, which I think most people know about, that we have a local SCORE chapter, and in a meeting with one of them, they led me to our local group, which is called the Economic Vitality Corporation, the EVC, and that's very specific to San Luis Obispo, but I would imagine that they exist elsewhere. But the EVC's entire charge is to help grow the economics of San Luis Obispo County. So when I met with them, I had no clue what I was doing. And the EVC advisor said, you know what I think you need some capital. So you can buy the inventory that you need and get this going. And literally picked up the phone and called our local banker, his friend who was a local bank, and sent me over to go have a meeting right away. And before I knew it, I had an SBA loan from a local community bank that was backed by the by the EVC, so that if I defaulted on my loan, the EVC was going to pick up a portion of it. I could not have done it without that. I mean, that was absolutely the launching pad for the beginning of this business. And then more recently, my original corporate attorney who drafted our C Corp papers in 2008 is now the director of our local SBDC at Cal Poly here. And so I reconnected with her, and she introduced me to the community of SBDC advisors. And I mean, it's a wealth of knowledge, and they're all so excited to help. One of the ones that I'll point out the most was an ex-manufacturing executive, and we moved from an 800 square foot facility into an 8,000 square foot facility last year. And before we lined up all of our pallet racks and all of our warehouse, we connected with, his name is Chuck Intrieri. We connected with him through the SBDC, and he came in and gave us lean manufacturing practices, talked about supply chain efficiency, talked about shipping efficiencies, and basically helped us design our warehouse for efficiency. And so, I mean, that's like gold. That was amazing to be able to work with him on that. But we've worked also with, on the finance side, with the CFO, ex-CFOs, on the sales side, and just kind of all around. We were lucky enough to receive the Small Family Business Award from the SBDC last year. We were very honored by that, and I think it's an incredible resource, and I imagine it's the same for you guys in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for the good word. And that was excellent background. That's great. I'm glad they could help. Yeah.
Totally. Ongoing, too. It's fun. And I reciprocate. I go give talks like this to them as well. So it's a pretty important connection. And any kind of peer group, I highly recommend people can get involved in, whether it's a local business group, you know, a local group of B Corps, or kind of any sort of any entity that ties things together that people can bounce ideas off each other. We're not in it alone, right?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm not really seeing any other questions that are coming in, and I know we're about running out of time. So I just wanted to quickly wrap up. I wanted to thank Caroline tremendously. That was a great presentation and great insight on a lot of stuff. I mentioned a few resources that we put together. You know, you can go and visit the links at a later time. But I kind of want to just close. I did mention that we have another webinar. We do have some guest speakers, I guess, from B Lab, you know, from talk about the B Corporation. And then we also have a guest speaker from the Sustainable Apparel Coalition that and this is going to happen on April 20th around the same time, 1 o'clock Eastern. So if you're interested, you know, please join us. We'll send out additional information. And as I said, thanks for attending. We will include a copy of this webinar and also a survey link. So be on the lookout for your email or your inbox. And that's about it. So thank you very much, Caroline.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And if anybody would like to follow up with me, you're welcome to contact me at caroline@allgoodproducts.com. And you can also find us through our website, allgoodproducts.com as well, and check out our wares. Very nice to spend the time with you, Jeremy. Thank you. And thank you, Ann.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks once again.